It's time for everyone's favourite build archetype, the Stealth Archer. But this isn't just any Stealth Archer. This is a Stealth Archer who is almost undetectable by the naked eye, and has the highest base damage bow in the game, meaning they're pretty much the best of the best. This character is a Dark Elf, and you can freely choose between either origin. You lose out on either personality or endurance, but neither is an important attribute for this build. For a Birthsign, I went with the Shadow Sign. This allows you to turn completely invisible once per day for a full minute. While this is obviously a huge benefit for any type of stealthy character, it is worth remembering that the invisibility effect is one which is cancelled the second you do anything other than just moving. If you open a door, loot a container, or fire an arrow at an unsuspecting enemy, then you'll pop back into visibility again. Still, this is a good ability to have for helping you get into position undetected, and early on it will be invaluable, even if in late game it will become somewhat redundant. The main attributes for this build are agility and intelligence. Agility should be your main focus here. Raise it by 5 points every single time you level up. This stat boosts the damage of your bow, so the higher it is, the better your chance of getting a deadly one-shot kill. This is the attribute you should be focusing on above all others. Additionally though, you will want to raise intelligence. This determines your overall magicka pool, and you want to make sure you have plenty in order to cast the spells that will augment this character. The minor attributes are willpower and speed. Willpower will determine how quickly your magicka returns to you, and the more of this you have, the less you need to rely on over-leveling intelligence. You want to make sure you end up with enough willpower that your main spell lasts longer than it takes you to get the magicka back, as this will allow you to replenish the spell over and over again without having to worry about it. The speed attribute is the last one I dipped into, and it helps you to get into position faster, and run away from enemies if you botch the stealth element and start getting heavily pursued. The major skills for this build are Marksman, Sneak, Illusion, Alchemy, Alteration, Mysticism, and Athletics. Marksman is a pretty obvious skill to focus on, as it will increase the damage of bows, helping greatly with a Stealth Archer who needs to kill enemies in as few shots as possible. Additionally, the Journeyman rank perk lets you zoom in a little while aiming, which can be quite the help when going for long range shots. Sneak is the other important half to being a Stealth Archer. Not only does the skill make it harder for others to detect you, but the first two perks heavily increase your damage with stealth attacks. Considering this will be a tag skill, you should unlock both of these right away. Illusion is up next, and is our most important school of magic, as it contains the Chameleon spell. This will make you become somewhat translucent and much harder to detect. This is all done by percentages, with the higher it being, the harder you are to spot. The higher you have Illusion, the stronger versions of this spell you can cast. Next up is Alchemy, the perfect skill for making deadly poisons. With this you can help to ensure your attacks are as dangerous as possible, by also draining health once the arrow lands. Additionally, you can craft plenty of potions to augment your stealth and magic skills. We then have Alteration, which is quite a useful utility school of magic. It has spells that can open locks for you, or make it so you can walk on water. Most importantly though, it comes with the Feather spell, which makes your character lighter. The overall weight of your character will also impact how stealthy you can be, so the Feather effect can give you a small boost to your sneakiness. Final magic skill is Mysticism, and this really was just a fun little role-playing pick on my part. It does have some genuinely useful effects like Detect Life and Soul Trap, but my reasoning for grabbing it was to pick up Telekinesis, which lets you roleplay as a poltergeist and mess with things from a distance. Purely a fun little side activity to do, but what's the point of playing a game if you're not there to have fun? And last skill I selected was Athletics, which just helps you to move around faster. This honestly isn't an important skill, but it will help you to sprint from location to location much faster, and by having it tagged, you will be passively leveling up much more often than normal. On to the equipment now, and there's quite a lot to cover here, but as always I'll start with the weapons. The primary weapon of this build is Hatred's Soul. As far as I'm aware, this is pretty much the highest base damage bow in the game, plus it comes pre-enchanted with both fire damage and drain speed. This gives you the best chance of getting a one-shot kill, but even if you don't, you've at least slowed the enemy so they can't close the distance to you as fast. For a secondary weapon, I also picked up Shadow Hunt. This bow doesn't have nearly as much base damage as our previous bow, but it does come with a host of different enchantments. The weakness to poison is of particular note, as it could arguably make it a better choice to equip if you're using a strong poison along with your bow. I've not run all the numbers myself, but either way, it's still good to have as a backup weapon. Just as important as the bow you use is what arrows you pick. The damage rating of different tiers of arrows change things up drastically, and enchanted arrows can make you even more deadly. Hatred Soul arrows can be gathered at the same time and place as the Hatred Soul bow, and come with a Soul Trap enchantment, which is really handy to have. My personal favourite pick though were the Arrows of Freezing. These have a 15-point frost damage enchantment on them, meaning that damage of the arrows alone is over 30. Onto what you'll be wearing now, starting with the Black Hand hood and robe. These two items come with a host of different Fortify effects, but the ones we care about are Fortify Marksman, Sneak, and Illusion. That's a 15-point buff to the three most important skills of a build, which makes for some perfect equipment. Plus, the fact that these are clothing items rather than armour means you get maximum spell effectiveness and don't have clunky sounding armour revealing your position. Onto the jewellery now, where I was able to pick a trio of unique items. First is the Spectre Ring, which fortifies Sneak, adds a 25% chameleon effect, and 100 points of feather. This makes it pretty much the perfect ring, though it will also drain your strength and endurance, so there is a slight downside to wearing it. Next is the Ring of Khajiit, or Khajiitai, I never know how I'm supposed to pronounce it, but this comes with an even stronger chameleon effect and makes you a little faster to boot. With both these rings equipped, you have a permanent 60% chameleon at all times, making you particularly tricky to spot. Finally, I also grabbed the Eye of Sithis, which provides a Detect Life effect. Honestly, I don't love Detect Life in this game, especially as the range always seems a little less than I'd like, but it can sometimes come in handy. More than anything though, I got this item for a bit of extra theming for the character, and it's not like we didn't have great enough effects already anyways. The main faction for this build is the Dark Brotherhood. Not only do they hold access to several pieces of equipment that I covered in the previous section, but the merchant there will also sell enchanted arrows. The huge range of great items you gain access to is more than enough to justify joining this faction, but they also have great missions for a stealth archer to undertake and totally fit the vibe of the whole playthrough too. In addition to the Dark Brotherhood, you may also want to join up with the Mages Guild. These guys certainly aren't as clear a fit, but they are useful to have on side, be it for buying spells, training magic skills, or unlocking one of the few spellcrafting stations in the game. And last of all, you will want to do some of the main questline. In order to get your hands on the main weapon of the build, Hatred Soul, you need to head into a specific Oblivion realm. The only guaranteed way to find this realm is to head through the Coral Oblivion Gate, which doesn't appear until you've completed the Shrine of Dagon main quest. Do the main quest up until this point, and then you can hop into the gate to grab your weapon. This build is the ultimate stealth archer. On the stealth side of things, you become nigh on undetectable with the combination of lightweight, chameleon, and the high stealth skill. And on the archer side of things, the high relevant attribute and skill, tied with some of the strongest bows and arrows in the game, make it so that you pack a real punch. In order to make myself more stealthy, I crafted a custom spell which I named Ghost Form. This was a 30-second and 30-point chameleon and feather effect on self, making me so much harder to detect. While this was active, I was at 90% chameleon, which makes you almost invisible. It is worth pointing out that you can craft a spell which will get you up to 100% chameleon, but this will remove any challenge at all from the game. Seriously, 100% chameleon is broken, and makes it so you do basically anything with impunity. If you want to be unbeatable, then max this out. Otherwise, just try and keep it in the 90s so that you actually still have to play the game somewhat. If you want to add more to the offensive side of the build, then make sure to regularly craft up poisons which you can apply to your weapon. These are another thing which can get a little ludicrous with the right setup, but even just dabbling in alchemy will make you noticeably stronger. For a little added roleplaying, you also get the Ancestor Ghost Greater Power, which is one of the main reasons I chose to play as a Dark Elf. Summoning a ghost fits in nicely with the overall theme of the build, plus it can even serve as a useful distraction if ever needed. All in all though, you're a stealth archer. Be sneaking, land shots at a distance, and you'll be fine. This young Dunmer was seen as somewhat of a problem child by his parents. He was loud, obnoxious and annoying, constantly bothering them from their important work. They didn't have the time nor the patience for his childish antics, so to be rid of this distraction they had brought into their lives, they decided to lock him in the family crypt. Here he would be far enough away from them so that they couldn't hear his cries for attention or running feet. As far as they were concerned, that was the end of things. They had resolved their issue, and the problem was no more. But for the young Dunmer, this was just the start of his terrors. He would spend every day of his childhood locked away in the family crypt for years and years, almost alone for the entire time. For while he was down there, he saw sights which would shatter his very soul. In the darkness of the mausoleum, he witnessed the ghosts of his long-dead ancestors. The sight of them terrified him for many months, but after a while he came to feel at peace when in their presence. Unlike the living members of his family, these ghosts never tried to harm him or be rid of him. The dead welcomed him with open arms, and in return, so too did he. Over the years he came to cherish his time in the crypt, finding more in common with the dead than the living. It was this sense of kinship with the ghosts which made him question if he himself was truly alive or not. From spending so much time surrounded by ghosts, he would come to see himself as one of their kind too. Not only did he start to believe that he was a ghost, but he also began worshipping Sithis, the first creator and Night Lord. The god of death was easy to accept for this young Dunmer, as Dark Elf society held none of the taboos toward this god that most of the other races seemed to. As he ventured into adulthood, he was able to find a place of belonging within the Morag Tong. These assassins would praise his skill at killing and devout religious zealotry, but the belief he was a ghost made many feel uneasy. Despite this, he was still able to spend an unprecedented length of time in service with this organisation. But all things must end, and eventually he was pushed out of the organisation, his strange obsession with ghosts proving too strange for even some assassins to accept. No doubt his parents also had a hand in this decision, as they held plenty of influence and had never appreciated their son's choice to not join the family business. Whether they did interfere or not mattered little in the end. Seeing his time in his homeland as coming to an end, he chose to murder his parents one night, and then leave for the realms of men. He would then spend the next few years killing his way through the lands of elves and men. He killed simply to serve Sithis and create more of his ghostly kin, but this unorganised slaughter would lead to his downfall, as a bounty hunter was able to track him down and face him in open combat. While deadly at range and from the shadows, in an open fight the Dark Elf was easily outmatched, and as such found himself knocked unconscious, eventually awaking in the Imperial prison. I hope you all enjoyed what is probably my strongest build to date. I specifically made it so that I wasn't too overpowered with this character, but if you want to go the easy route with things and have a bit of a power fantasy, then you can definitely achieve it with this build. Give the video a like if you enjoyed watching or found it helpful in some way, and make sure to subscribe for weekly Oblivion character builds. If you want to support the channel even further, then you can become a channel member or Patreon supporter. But if you want a free way to show your support, then feel free to just leave a positive comment. That always makes my day a little bit better. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.